So next, we will have the open mic. A lot of you've been here before, you know what we do. One poem per customer. It can be one of yours or somebody else's. If it's someone else's, please say whose. And I encourage you to volunteer in the chat. Okay, I see Gary. And oh boy, they're rolling in. Okay, let's see. Let's start with Gary, John, Scott, and we will go from there.
Okay, so it's time for me to unmute. This poem is a physics poem. If you know about Schrodinger's cat, which is the famous experiment in physics, this is the cat talking from inside the box. It's called Solitaire, and it has an epigraph. He who is lit from T.S. Eliot, he who is living is now dead. We who are living are now dying with a little patience. I am Schrodinger's cat. I sit inside the unopened box of possibility. See the suspended. Wait. Partly dead, I scratch what doesn't itch. Play solitaire with subatomic cards that glow in the dark. Blackjack to pass the uncounted hours. The hits adding up. Poker, hoping for time to draw. A one-eyed jack. The wild power of the singular eye that sees without opening, without collapsing, an eye that leaves no trace but a smile. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we'll have John, Scott, Lisa, and several others. Keep them coming.
Hi. John Simons here in Honolulu, and I live just below a ridge that has a gated community of multi-million-dollar homes, and we live in a city that is real estate growth is pretty phenomenal. I suspect those of you who also live in a big city that is growing may relate to this. This poem is about the folks that live up above. It's called Light from Above. Our hills seem allied with the towns of Luxor, a city of Egypt known for its sunlit columns, and a Vegas hotel with the strongest skybeam, all reflecting life in old and new worlds of light. From the heights come the look of luxury, winking down at us each night with commanding beacons, a looming lamplit mass, subsets of the stars, projecting the sparkle of lucre, reminding us they stand watch, lighthouses guarding the high ground of America's multi-grade dream. At dawn, the ridge converts to sun-glint Mediterranean sprawl, a gated new world that became our tile-roofed eastern horizon in less than 2 decades of growth. Hawaii Lower Ridge looks down on our old Dairyland Valley, but not in demeaning ways, though its terraced lawns by day and guiding lights at night lift up our eyes to the hills, from whence cometh little help. Instead, from us to them grows empathy. Their remote palisades, safe from our intrusive sightseeing, offer but one gate in and out, while our sea level traffic, slow as it often is, more freely gauges our movement options. A walk-to group of busy stores among our own monster homes and single-family side street camouflage rental nooks The candle power of lesser lights flashes on the waters to remind us of our nearness to the ocean flood, pending need and chance for rescue. Unlike those locked in upward mobility. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very nice to be joined from everybody from Hawaii and various other parts of the globe. All right. Scott, if you're ready, and then we'll have Lisa, Jonathan, Terry, and various others. I see more talented people in the room, so feel free to volunteer, people. But yeah, next up we'll have Scott.
All right. Thanks, Layla. Scott Kalupa from Columbia, South Carolina, but really from Houston. So I miss all of my Houston family. I seem to be a permanent transplant at this point. So I was going to read something new, but after Chelsea's lovely line about grief in a new person is ugly, I decided to read from my book Quarantine, which was out about a year before the pandemic hit. So it was like really strange time. And the book is all about the early AIDS pandemic when grief was in every new person, and so was beautiful. So this is Nausean number 7. Oh, content warning, it drops an F-bomb just in case. Nausean number 7. And this opens with an epigraph. What a sweet gift this is. James L. White. The music from my living room meanders through our clumsy romp. Your lips sforzando each time I crescendo through your button fly. Diminuendo at the drops of picture frames on countertops. This kitchenette impromptu fuck is not uncommon comfort work. It's how we box up luckless men, once strangers in our darkened dens, now hidden deep in Nauseans. Our slackened traps and limbs receive Satie's sad, salty melodies. It's messy, but it's how we grieve. Our ravenous and raving months in love begin and end with death. And you, my relic, you, my breath, half stammer notes of grace bereft. These liquored kisses, your bequest, will soon bloom blotches on my chest. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you. All right, Lisa, when you're ready, followed by Jonathan, Terry, Art, and several others.
Hi. Are you able to hear me? Okay, great. This is a haiku, so I'll read it twice. Pupa-born monarch cleaves to cracking man-made throne. Soft winds dry her wings. Pupa-born monarch cleaves to cracking man-made throne. Soft winds dry her wings.
Thank you. And I see you followed with what Allison set up about reading a haiku twice. Nicely done. And thanks, Allison, for setting us up for success there. All right, Jonathan, when you're ready, followed by Terry, Art, and then 2 Gormans and Prevadry.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I missed a couple of the last meetings, and glad to be here today. I wrote this one recently. I finally got ticked off enough about climate change to write something about it. I know it's overdone, but hopefully you'll find something in it. It's called Implausible Deniability. All you care about is pretending you didn't know, acting as if no one could have known, being the monkey that couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't speak. You won't be the idiot that rushes in trying to save the planet. You'll be the grandfather clock, just ticking quietly in the corner until the bell tolls. The world is in flames, but you pretend to have a chill. Right up to the time the skin literally melts off your body in liquid globs of bloody tapioca drooling down a skeletal framework, all the while thou doth protest too little, taking a position to get reelected as your eyes bulge, wondering what happened, wishing you could have a picnic in a park that's only an ashen remain where barbecues and picnic tables once stood. Is this game worth playing where climate spins like a roulette wheel as you pretend it's all left to chance, as if you couldn't stop the spinning if you wanted to? You could close the whole goddamn casino, but you won't. It's not in the cards for you, being that person, someone willing to take heat to prevent mass suicide. Let it ride, hit me again, a jackpot is around the corner, you can't lose, nothing can go wrong. No one will hold you accountable. You will always say it wasn't you. You will always say it was us. You will say it would happen anyway while you watch birds and deer, antelope and elk, fish and fowl dry up and perish as extinct as a dead volcano. Then it will come for us. History will not judge you when there is no history, when there is only a flat plain of desert of dried and dusty nonsense strewn across the landscape, showing us the place beyond Mad Max's Thunderdome, the awesome power we have when we convince ourselves that we can deny our way through the end of the world and never say we're sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. You know, I don't think you can write too much about a thing if it's actually still happening and still relevant. Just saying. Go for it. All right. Next up, Terry, Art, John Gorman, Christy Gorman, and there's still time to volunteer if you'd like to.
Thank you for giving me a chance to read one of my poems. Lately, I have been considering pursuing my MFA. I already have several graduate degrees, but I've considered earning my MFA, and I've been in conversations with two well-known U.S. poets, and one of them told me, he said, "Oh, you're going to pursue your MFA?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, how much is that going to cost you?" And I said, "Well, between $20,000 and $30,000. He said, "Forget that." He said, "I can screw you up for half that price." And this poem is created on his encouragement to look at poetry written in other languages. And it's amazing. It's amazing how much you say, you know, we read English poetry all the time, but then when you start reading translations of poetry that you would have never considered before and introduced by somebody who really knows it well, it opens up a new frontier for you. So I wrote this poem after listening to our poets here. I just wrote the poem and some of the stuff I've heard from a Kurdish poet. The poem is titled, "That Is to Say." There's a Kurdish phrase that means child that translates into English as tied to my heart. When you want to ask someone how he is feeling, you ask him, "How is your weather?" English is my hermitage, French my sanctuary. As a child, my father spoke in French to conduct business, sell a pig, buy a plow, ask the priest to say a mass for his mother. But a German nun said we demonstrated ignorance when we spoke French in school. Perhaps she had not tied us to her heart, or it may have been she was having a hurricane day. Thank you.
Thank you. Hurricane Day. I think we can relate here in Houston. All right. Next up, let's have Art, followed by John Gorman and Christy Gorman, and then Prevadry. And then if no one else volunteers, I'll wrap it up.
Okay, my name's really Ann. I don't know how my husband's name got put on there, but so I have 4 little haiku poems. Is that okay to read?
We have that one poem
Okay,
rule.
that's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's no problem. The red yucca blooms, nature's hummingbird feeder, my daybreak cafe. The red yucca blooms, nature's hummingbird feeder, my daybreak cafe.
Nicely done. Thank you. All right, next up, John Gorman.
Well, I think I've unmuted my audio. Do you think so too?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, this poem is called Night Rider, and it's set in the Midwest, west of Chicago, where we have oak trees. I love the live oaks that we have here in Texas that keep their leaves green all year. The oaks up in Illinois keep their leaves all year too, but the leaves don't stay green. So they're all, you know, kind of images of death, not to be too despondent. It's a teenage memory poem. Here in the field, the city is a yellow-gray blur on the snow clouds. A few scattered flashing red lights. The boy is drunk. He stumbles a little on the hard, plowed ground. Stalks and leaves of falling corn pitch in and out of the snow waves like sails of a huge armada drowning. He wants to leave the town that's held and shaped him, and technically, he's left it. He wants to walk to the rise where an oak grove, dark and shapy against the night sky, will show him the tops of the water towers, the gas tower, the 2 or 3 tallest buildings. He wants the dead leaves these trees hang on to all winter to tell him he's right. But the headlights he forgot to turn off on his father's car are dimming, or he thinks they're dimming, and he turns, knocking a rampart of frozen earth from a furrow. His mind sees the slope and rise and fall and rise and stretch of American land from the hidden edge of the Oak Knoll to the infinite Rockies to the Pacific, blue water, warm sand. And it came to pass, he says foolishly, into the night's air, a few more snowflakes spewing. He swigs the dregs and drops the pint bottle of brandy that serves for that mellower brandy. He swivels in a huge round snifter by cafe light in the Paris of his mind. Lights appear around a curve below, but it's not the police. They honk, but they don't stop as they pass his empty car. Probably they don't know him. Certainly they don't see him lurching like a robot over long corrugations patiently shaped in the earth, blowing whiny plumes into the ice of the air that could, but won't, kill him. The engine strains, then catches. In a sense, nothing's gone wrong. After a minute, when he's sure it will last, this garage word, bedward motion, he flips on the heater. Radio fills the ticking world of the car with its swirl of music, acne, prizes, freedom, song by brilliant song. He lets it reel him home. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a double shot of Gormans here today, a Christy Gorman, and then next up, Prevadry, and following that, Katie.
Hi, I'm Chris. I am not a poet, but I wanted to read a poem about a dinosaur as an adult. There's a lot of opportunity for y'all there because they are all for kids. But my friend really loves poems about people at work. So I'm going to do this poem called The Paleontologist's Blind Date. Bones, he says, holding, I can almost feel the stone and the sand sifting away, his fingers like the softest of brushes. I realize after this touch, he would know me years from now, even in the dark, even without my skin. Thank you, I smile, and then I close the door and never call him again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Prevadry.
Hello everyone, am I audible? Okay, so this is actually not a poem written by me, but it is written by one of my friends rather. So she has named it The Mask. She smiles, I cry. She's outgoing, I'm shy. She loves, I'm alone. She is amazing, I'm unknown. She is beautiful, I'm a mess. She's happy, I'm depressed. My mask is perfect. She hides me. Thank you.
Thank you. Very clever. All right, next up, Katie Hirth, and then I'll wrap it up.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a while since I've come to a public poetry reading, and as always, it's just a wonderful way to spend an afternoon. So I'm going to read a poem. It's called As Wildflowers. I think I found the cure for all the shame we're taught to feel within our bodies. Instead of flesh and bone, imagine this, a wildflower blooming on the prairie. As a black-eyed Susan, it makes sense to wear a yellow sundress, gussy up and gaze into the mirror of the sky. Being lovely isn't frivolous, it's an ecosystem of survival. And no one dares to blame the spiderworts who fill the summer fields with indigo, for seeking out the touch of honeybees, for flirting with the monarchs flying by, for relishing the kiss of August sun. And who could blame the vervain blooms who drip with dulcet nectar for enjoying a visit from a handsome hummingbird? And if my body were a dandelion, I wouldn't have to hate it so for changing as the seasons change, its golden petals suddenly the hue of snow. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, before we get back to our featured poets, I just thought I'd share one poem real quickly. This is an old poem by Emily Dickinson. And there are a lot of things I could say about finding connections, to other poets and other human beings, in effect, in other places, other times. I like to read this poem two ways. I hear it sometimes in terms of Emily in her own home, in her own time, in her own head. And sometimes it's kind of about me, which it's not, but I feel it as I'm here in Houston. So I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell, they'll advertise, How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. So there you go. There's a fun poem for everybody. All right, thanks to the open mic readers. And now